So former radio presenter Ngizwe Mchunu has been charged under the Riotous Assemblies Act. This is after he posted videos on social media following the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma. Meanwhile, NPA head Advocate Shamila Batoyi told Parliament yesterday that the police are going after the looters, those found with stolen goods, and those found to have incited violence in KZN and Gauteng. What else should we think of? Let's bring in the NPA spokesperson, Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga, who joins us now via our video link. Advocate, great to chat to you. Thanks very much indeed for making time for us. Please can I just start with what we've just witnessed here on the program. I'm not sure how much of it you might have even been able to catch, but our reporter Linda Mnisi is in Sebokeng this morning, where we're told there are seizures of goods that were stolen during the looting. However, he's been at pains to stress that procedurally no kind of arrest warrant is being presented. The verification process is largely unclear, and it just appears that people are knocking at doors and being able to enter to steal supposed looted goods. Procedurally speaking, does that sound sound to you?
Good morning, Anna. Good morning to your viewers. Of importance is the fact that law enforcement need a warrant of arrest to conduct a search and seizure, but in circumstances where the delay of that would defeat the very purpose of the search, they are allowed to search in instances where sometimes the owner of the property gives consent for that search to be conducted. We are hoping that they will conduct it lawfully.
Yeah, so, I mean, given the information we have at our disposal, you'd imagine that some kind of warrant by now would have been able to be acquired and should be presented to the residents who have their homes being searched as of this morning.
I'm not sure of the circumstances under which those searches are conducted, so only law enforcement are best placed to respond to that, unfortunately.
Sure. Very quickly, if I can, the last point on this. Insofar as the law is again allowing, is there an imperative on the part of law enforcement officials to at least be able to verify what is and isn't looted? I mean, to me, it doesn't sound like you can just grab anyone's goods inside their home.
They need verification of that, so I don't know what process are they following in order to ensure that they are taking items that belong to the shops.
Okay, fair enough. The other matter, if I can just get your sense on what to make of this. Reports this morning that police stations have received intelligence about a planned attack and they are remaining on high alert. It's actually a report by News 24. I'm not quite sure where in that process the NPA might be involved, but at the very least, are you aware of this information?
Unfortunately, with the prosecutorial component of the criminal justice system, on issues of intelligence and investigative aspect, we are not involved.
Sure. The instigators, though, that have been, I guess, touted about by government have, in some respects, now been arrested. What is topmost of mind for the NPA in dealing with those particular cases versus the cases with, I guess, all the other looters, for lack of a better term?
Of importance is the fact that we'll be charging them with incitement to commit public violence, but we'll be guided by evidence in terms of the charges that we prepare. We are ready as and when instigators of the higher category who may be charged with treason and terrorism in instances where there's evidence pointing to that. But at this stage, the instigators have not been charged with those high offenses and serious offenses.
All right. And is there a categorization of the looters themselves, those who I guess are of low category and high category?
There are looters who go to the shop, break the window, break the door, and steal items. And then there's the second category of organized looters who bring in trucks to load those items and live with them.
Yeah. How concerned are you as the NPA about, I guess, the investigative skills at your disposal to see through to successful prosecutions in these cases?
We are concerned and hope that law enforcement will bring in at least experienced investigators, because these cases, insofar as investigators are concerned, are going to be very tricky to investigate. So far, they've been meticulous in their investigations in respect of the 4 accused that have appeared in court.
For one, the NPA head Shamila Batoyi told Parliament yesterday that it's going to be senior prosecutors who are being, if you like, tasked with seeing through to these cases, at least those involving the instigators themselves. Is there a capacity for that, given the problems we know still plague the NPA?
Well, the incidents occur at a time when the country is facing the pandemic of COVID-19. So that presents challenges everywhere in all sectors of the criminal justice system. However, we have round up experienced prosecutors and we said, look, we'll reassign you, don't do any other cases, but we'll allocate you these cases and work in collaboration with law enforcement to prioritize these cases, liaise with the Legal Aid South Africa so that those poor accused who may not afford legal representations are able to be afforded one by legal aid so that they can be swift justice on those cases, for example, where they plead guilty. And we'll also consider restorative justice where people bring in the items of stolen and in return for admission of guilt fine or they be just released.
The reassignment of these senior prosecutors, what kind of cases is that likely to impact?
They will be dealing with these instigator cases because that's the higher category in terms of categorization of the matters.
Oh, sorry, perhaps I wasn't clear in my question. They typically would have been working on other cases, one would presume, given the capacity constraints within the NPA. Now that they're being reassigned to focus on these instigator cases, which other matters perhaps will have to be on the back burner within the NPA?
Now there's a great pool of prosecutors. Those cases will be reassigned to other prosecutors within the region, in the KZN and Gauteng, but the matters are decentralized insofar as the instigator cases are concerned.
Right. Interesting that the NPA had also mentioned issues around the prosecutorial body being seen as being factional in their following up on these issues or on these cases. How high up the list of concerns is that for you as the NPA? The fact that going ahead with these prosecutions in some instances might be viewed as being part of some kind of factional battle?
Not at all. We don't venture into politics. It's a pity that some people view this from a political point of view. But we are guided by evidence. Every decision we take that is prosecutorial is informed by evidence that is presented to us by law enforcement. Politics or factions don't play a role here.
Why is it then that the NPA head would even raise this yesterday?
Of importance is the fact that people should know about independence of the NPA. So, for example, yesterday the family was accusing us of political prosecution in the Ngizwe Mchunu case, when that is not the case. So it needed to be upfront and clear that we are independent, we are guided only by the truth, justice, and the upholding of the rule of law.
The Correctional Services Department mentioning their concerns around the overcrowding of prison cells in this entire process. Is that putting pressure on you to see through to these prosecutions in any way?
To ease the pressure on correctional services because of overcrowding and COVID, in deserving cases, people are granted bail. In deserving cases, people are released on warning. In deserving cases, we consider restorative justice and admission of guilt fines.
Right. The big story as of this morning, of course, is the former President Jacob Zuma also being granted compassionate leave. Some might view this as some kind of special treatment. What's the NPA's response to that development?
NPA is a prosecutorial component of the criminal justice system. On correctional services issues, they are not involved. Right. So I'm unable to comment on that.
Fair enough. Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga, thanks very much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it. Advocate Mhaga is the NPA spokesperson. Thanks very much indeed.